Well, following the interview you had earlier with the acting spokesperson in the presidency with Tyrone Seale, we now speak to the spokesperson of the SIU, Kaizer Kganyago, on their report. Mr. Kganyago, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. What's your reaction to the final release of the SIU report?
Thank you very much. We are really excited that the report is finally out there, because there's been a lot of pressure on us that the report should be released. But what we can say to the public of South Africa is that we are in a position where we are continuing with the work that needs to be done. And as people know, that we have already instituted civil proceedings at the special tribunal to try and recover the whole 150 million rand and set aside that contract. And then we have gone further, where we are now dealing with the issue of referrals that we have already sent. We have sent referrals against the DG of the department, who is now on suspension. We have got further 7 other people, senior officials in the department, including a Deputy Director General that we've made referrals to. But we've also done so in relation to the criminal side of things, where we've sent the referrals against certain people to the NPA.
Let's talk about some of the key findings. I know that Dr. Pillay has been adversely implicated in this particular report. So what are some of the key findings that we should be focusing on?
Yes, you should look at the fact that the whole contract was entered into irregularly. Obviously, if you look at the report, you'll see the procurement process was not followed, and it was very clear that everybody wanted to give this contract to Digital Vibes. But also, we have found that instead of having a performance-based contract, they then were giving this Digital Vibes amounts or retainer amounts, which was not something that was part of the contract that they had signed with them. Therefore, for us, it was something that was problematic, and we had to look at into those things. But we have done criminal referrals against the DDG, Mr. Pillay, purely because he was instrumental into making sure that this contract are done. But we can also say to the public of South Africa that further to our report being given to the president, there is still more information that is coming our way in relation to Digital Vibes, and we are continuing to look into all of those new allegations that are coming our way.
Surely Dr. Pillay did not act alone in this whole process. I know that there's somebody else who had authorized the deviation from the acceptable, the normal acceptable procurement processes. So did the SIU make an investigation as to who authorized that deviation?
No, definitely. We have done so. We have checked because you must remember, deviations are not authorized by the department. They are authorized by the Department of Finance. And therefore, in relation to this, it was very clear that the department has refused that deviation, and they said to them, go and follow the normal process. And that they did not follow. It was deliberate on their part for not following that. And we have looked at, if you look at the report, we have stipulated all of those things and the times when these things happened. You must also remember that when this matter the contract was given for COVID, it was even before Treasury could do Note 8 that they did for the purposes of regulating the spending around COVID-19. Therefore, at that point, there was nothing that was saying anything is an emergency. They needed to have followed the process as they were supposed to have followed the process.
So will those officers who authorized the deviation will be criminally charged, as the SIU has recommended Dr. Anbay to be criminally charged?
Yes, we have made a recommendation for everybody, for those that need to be disciplined. We have made, like I said, all the members of the BEC that was involved in the allocation of this contract are going to be part of this disciplinary hearing. We've named them in the report as they are, and we are moving that way. Anybody who has criminal allegations been proved by us, we then have sent that evidence to the NPA for them to deal with. But we are going to continue and make sure that all of those things are implemented.
All right, Mr. Kganyago, let's talk about the methodology and the process of investigating. Who conducted the interviews to interview, these affected parties, and what went into that investigation process?
Yeah, all of the investigation was done purely by the investigators here at the SIU. I can't mention who they are, but the investigation was done purely by our experts who are in the organization, and we didn't even get any of the people from outside to assist on this particular one because we've got the expertise that are required. And in terms of methodology, you would see in the summary of the report where we talk about the allegation having come our way, we had to go back and look at it, where it started, how this company got to get involved. That is why we had, even though it was outside of our mandate, we had to go back and look at where the contract started in the Department of COCTA and then take it back to how it became, they were part of the NHI, and then how they became part of the media campaign people for COVID-19. Therefore, all of that extensive work was done. And you'll remember at the time, we were under serious pressure to deal with this matter, and we had to do it in a very short space of time. That is why I'm saying, even now as we speak to you, we are looking at some more of the evidence that has come our way, which is even after we've given the report to the president.
And for the benefit of those who haven't still seen the report, Mr. Kganyago, where does it leave former Health Minister Dr. Mkhize? Will he be criminally charged? And how has he been affected, or rather being fingered in this report?
No, we have made it very clear in the report that he was directly involved in these processes, and we've shown the evidence that is attached to that. Therefore, it was very clear that for him to have said at some point that he was not involved in this, it cannot be true, because we've got evidence to show, and even people in there who have given evidence to the effect that they were pressured into doing certain things.
But what's SIU's recommendation then around Dr. Mkhize?
No, obviously, we have sent that to the recommendation clearly that he was involved. And that is why, one, in the matter before the tribunal, he's one of the respondents there, because we need to get the money that he has received from this contract. And we have also referred the matter to the NPA for criminality.
So the recommendation is that the monies that he was accused of, embezzling need to be recovered. And how much is that?
Yes, we are not going to get into that detail because the matter is now before the tribunal. All I can say to you is we want to recover the total amount of that contract, which is 150 million. And we have now cited 30 respondents, including the minister, his son, and other people, Tahira and them, so that all of the people where we have traced the money to must come and account why that money was getting to them, and then why it should not be taken back to the Department of Health.
I suppose then that this is an insinuation that this report is not as comprehensive as you would like us to believe, and it's not complete, when there's still other processes in terms of recovering some of the embezzled public funds. You're saying that you still need to refer it to the tribunal to get some sort of recommendation of what to do with Dr. Mkhize. So this report is incomplete then, Mr. Kganyago?
No, the report is complete. What we are now doing is implementing the recommendations, because one of the recommendations would then be recover the money. Therefore, for you to recover the money, there need to be a process, and the process can only happen in the courts, and the special tribunal is set in terms of our legislation to do exactly that. Therefore, you can't just go and say, I'm coming to you, give me the money. We then go to the court process like we do in any other process. You'd have seen, we have done the same when we're dealing with them Sagala matter. We have done the same when we're dealing with the Hlathi matter. We will do that. It doesn't mean that the report is not comprehensive. It has concluded already that the contract is illegal. Therefore, when the contract is illegal, you don't just say, therefore it is cancelled. It has to follow a judicial process for it to have an order that says the contract is set aside, and once it is set aside, we are then able to recover the money.
All right, Mr. Kaizer Kganyago, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Kaizer Kganyago there is a spokesperson of the Special Investigative Unit, just commenting and reflecting on the release of this SIU report.